In this video, I'm going to go over 7 reasons why church security programs fail. Let's dive in. Now, the reality is that most churches struggle for these 7 reasons. Now, I've been helping churches with security ministry for over a decade across all different faith denominations. And these are 7 things that I see consistently across these churches why their programs struggle, or sometimes why their programs fail. So let's go to number 1. Number 1 is that there's a belief that security is not biblical. And we know in the New Testament, when Jesus was betrayed, and then when Simon Peter cut the ear off one of the high disciples' servants, Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back in its place." He didn't say, "Simon Peter, why have you got a sword?" He didn't say, "What have you got it for? Where did you get it from?" He said, "Put your sword back in its place." There is so much scripture in the Old Testament and the New Testament that addresses safety and security. Security is biblical, but that is number 1. There is a belief by some that security is not biblical. Now, number 2 is that there is a denial of danger. A couple of years ago, I had the honor and privilege to talk with Frank Pomeroy, the former pastor of the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, where you may remember in 2017, an armed gunman walked into 11 o'clock service and took 26 human lives, many more injured. Now, part of the story is that Frank actually wasn't at the church that day, and the very night before, someone had said to Frank, "Are you concerned with the safety and security at your church?" And his response was very simple: "We're just a small church in Texas. Nothing is ever going to happen here." And we know tragically the following day, 26 people lost their lives. One of those was his 14-year-old daughter. So there is a real denial of danger. Frank is now one of the biggest advocates for safety and security that you will find traveling to conferences, talking as to why we need to have security. But there is a denial of danger. When I talk to my good friend Cole Chin from the Faith-Based Security Network, and I say to him, "Cole, what do you see in faith communities across the country as to why security isn't working?" Straight away, he says, denial of danger. We are still seeing that. So that is number 2. There is a denial of danger. Number 3 is that there is no security culture. And when I worked at Mall of America, it didn't matter if it was the CEO, me in security, or housekeeping. Everyone was trained and everyone knew it was their responsibility to keep the location safe. They would look for unattended items. They would look for behavior that was out of the ordinary. When they would see that, they would take action. Mall of America has a strong security culture. You don't often see that in churches. There's a worship team. I recorded a prior video on this about the danger of the insecure rear door. They love leaving that rear door open because they're artistic and they don't really necessarily focus on safety and security. But there's so many aspects across the church that we see. There's not this cohesiveness, there's not this togetherness, there's not this "we're in this together" mentality. There is no security culture, and it's one of the reasons why security fails. Number 4 is a lack of support for security leadership. When I started to write my best-selling book, Securing Church Operations, that was because I was working with a managing director of a church in California, and that leader had no support. They were constantly frustrated, constantly being blackballed by people on the leadership team or even on the executive board. And it was just frustrating for them. They didn't have the support. People didn't take security seriously. So there was so many issues that this leader faced. And I'm sure this may resonate with you as well, that sometimes you don't feel like you got the support. So number 4 is there is a lack of support for security leaders. Number 5 is that people are overwhelmed and stressed. I can raise my hand like you as a security practitioner and say that there is so much to do in safety and security in a church. There's finding new people to go on your safety team. There's onboarding. There's training. There's writing your emergency operations plan. There's making changes to the plan. There's testing the plan. There's doing after action reviews as to what went wrong. There's advising the pastor on risk. There's risk management. There's threat assessment. There is so much in safety and security in churches. And if you're watching this video, perhaps you could be a volunteer and maybe you feel overwhelmed and you feel stressed by how much to do. And that is number 5. People are stressed, they're overwhelmed, and that causes inaction and it causes church safety teams to fail. Now, number 6 is that leaders are not creating the impact that we want. Now, A lot of the millennials that are in the workforce, when they move around positions to different jobs, a lot of us older generation will say, well, they can't stick at one job. They're looking for the higher paycheck. Well, actually, the data shows millennials leave their employers because they're not making the impact that they want. They don't feel valued. And this is something that I see in houses of worship across the country, that leaders say, Simon, I just want to make change. I just want to make our church safer. And just how do I get there? I'm not making that impact. Leads to frustration, leads to the overwhelm, leads to stress, and then these leaders either leave the church or they move into another ministry, which is really a shame for our church safety and security programs when you have someone who's dedicated. But that is number 6. Leaders feel they're not creating the impact that they want, and so they then leave their church program. And number 7, security programs receive little or no financial budget, so they go backwards. They don't grow. The program can't advance. And this is because in a lot of houses of worship, safety and security is not considered a ministry. You've heard me in this video. I call security ministry. We should have the same financial backing as outreach ministry. We should have the same financial backing as your foreign ministry. We should have the same financial backing as your local ministry, but we know most often that we don't. We receive a little or no financial budget. And you people watching this video, statistically, you're most probably a volunteer paying for things yourself. And I'm incredibly grateful that you do that you bless your church ministries to try and help keep people safe. But that is number 7. Security programs receive little or no financial budget, and then the program then fails. Now, I'd love to ask you this question. Which of those do you see at your houses of worship? Out of that 7, I'm sure you see at least 1, if not 2. So drop a comment below. Let me know which one of those reasons why church security fail you see in your ministry. And also maybe tell me, what are you doing to try and overturn that adversary that you have within your ministry? And it's one of the reasons that many years ago, I wrote my book, Securing Church Operations, and the Lord has blessed me sending over 3,000 copies of this book. The 7 reasons I've given you why security fails, you have the blueprint within that book, so I'd love for you to pick up a copy of that book. But for now, you stay safe, you have a blessed day. Check out this video where there's more information about church safety and security risk management, and I shall see you in that next video. Take care, everybody.